Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Andrew. Very excited today to bring Chris Benham, who is an IT security analyst or cybersecurity analyst with Accuray on the channel to share his stories and some insight on breaking into cyber. And Chris, I'm going to pass it to you for an introduction.
Yeah, so Chris Benham. Originally, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. I've left the state a few times, went to Tennessee, and then now I'm up in northern Utah and a little bit more permanent up here. And yeah, I'm actually pretty new to cybersecurity myself. I've only been in it for probably about 2.5 years. Went back to school in my late 30s. And so it's a really great transition and just very happy to be doing this, and especially here today with you.
No, and honestly, Chris, I'm actually glad you said that because one, just showing that you can do that career change in your 30s is just kind of proof to, I think, of breaking into cyber that anyone can do this across the spectrum of age, experience, kind of what they're going through. And two, you've just like you said, only being in it for 2 years, have you had to break into it. So I think it's going to be a really fun talk as someone that's kind of fresh in the scene and kind of what you went through to get into this journey. But let's go ahead and hit you with the first question I ask everyone that comes on the channel. So cybersecurity, when we're going through first grade, hitting through those the career field days where the teacher asks us what do we want to be? We say firefighters, astronaut, dentists. We want to be dog petters, dog groomers. Usually not everyone is saying, I want to be a cybersecurity analyst. So kind of what's your story of how you fell into the role you are in today?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, cybersecurity didn't exist, right? I
Yep.
grew up in the 80s, 90s, and even in high school, learning how to type and, just growing up playing on computers with games. When I graduated high school, I thought IT work was just fixing things. Fixing someone's printer or, kind of like that help desk role. And I didn't want to do that. And I'm always been more interested in science and math, so I thought about doing physics and going to college for that. And then that changed. Still love math and science. One of my things is still involves physics, like just having that like scientific way of thinking, breaking things down. But honestly, when I was going to school, I was also doing pest control. And
Okay.
when you grow up in the 80s, you kind of had this mind frame of I'm going to work for one company, I'm going to work there forever.
Yep.
So I worked my way up in that company, and then I realized about 10 years in, this isn't it. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. My wife was helping me. I got over with USAA right in 2020. So 3 months in, I also got married that year. So
Congrats.
2020 is
Awesome.
crazy. Thank you.
Busy year.
Yeah. Yeah. So like a couple months before COVID and the shutdown, I start working for USAA, and I'm thinking this is perfect. Like that's a company I can stay with, and they're so big I can do so much within it. And at that time, I did want to go back for IT, cybersecurity. I really like the aspect of defending, especially against cyber criminals online.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big fan of exploitation and bullies, basically. So I did that. Problem was, after a year, we decided to move to Utah, and I couldn't take my job with me.
Yep.
And when I looked for jobs up here, nothing really sounded good. We're kind of in a smaller area, and I just happened to find Bridgeland Technical College. We call it BTech, and they had an IT cybersecurity program. And I was thinking, okay, it's kind of like a work at your own pace. I can get it done. I have to get it done fast. I have to get a job right away because we can't survive on one income. It's just not possible. So did that, you know, plowed through that in like 6 months. I got my A plus, failed my net plus, but I got my security plus, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I was like,
I will say this real
you
quick.
know,
I have too failed my net plus, And I never went back.
Well, exactly. Why? Why? I'm sorry for all those who studied and got it. We'll probably get to this later. You don't need it.
There's
That's
important,
my
yeah, yeah.
that's my opinion, right?
We'll get to that
If
part of
you
the
know how
interview.
to do those things, it's fine. You don't need a certification for it. Ironically, so I'm in school. I got it done in 6 months. I found out about DC 435, which is our local DEF CON chapter.
Yep.
Started going to that, met some great people. From there, I landed my first job. They told me, hey, go here, apply here, tell them it's from me. And one of the best things that I learned from that was I thanked him, for getting me that job. He's like, I didn't get you that job. You got yourself that job. And then that kind of helped. It's like, okay, you're right. I did have to go through that interview. I did have to put in the work. And, was I able to do everything that the job wanted? No. But for me, I honestly believe that I can work just about any job, because if I can't figure it out, I'll find a way. I'm not afraid to ask for help.
Yep.
But if my boss says, hey, go and do this, and I start doing it and I start hitting roadblocks, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going until I realize, okay, I do need some outside help. Let me get that. But I will learn. I'll, obviously use the resources that I have available to me to learn and to figure it out.
Oh my gosh, Chris, you hit so many nails on the head, and we connected. We connected so much in your story, because it's so identical to my first role when I left law enforcement. I was part of my DC 4 local group here, our local DEF CON group here in the Valley. Same thing. I was introduced to my hiring manager when I had to interview, and just like you said, you earned that role. And the nice part about, and we'll get into networking later down on some of these questions, but sure. Exactly that, networking, I think in this industry, when you're first starting out and even as you're in, is huge, because they can help direct you toward some applications and processes are open for interviews, but you need to be the best candidate to get the position. They might be able to take you to the door, but you have to actually knock on the door, introduce yourself, be allowed to be entered into that job role to get the job. So it's not just because oh, Carl, yeah, you're hired. Well, hold on.
Right.
Let's interview first and see how you do. And then you just hope you have a great manager that's also, kind of like you mentioned, you're an up and coming, I would always sell this, my spiel when I was trying to break in, it's look, I have no bad habits. I've never done cybersecurity, but I'm learning it. And it was a hit and miss. Some people loved it. You know what? We can train you our way. And that way, the innards of how our company does cyber. That's actually a really good way to spin that. Some would say well, we're looking for someone that has those stronger fundamentals, and you're just missing some of those fundamentals. Yeah. So, but I think spot on, like you said, there's some certifications, and bless your heart for getting the A+. I would have, if we knew,
school, right?
There's pieces of it, right? Because I don't have my A+, but there's pieces of it that are important where I think, like you said, depending on the role you're going into, the foundational knowledge skills of it, same thing for Net Plus, are great. Is it needed to get into cybersecurity? Not really. And I think the same thing, because I skipped both those and I went right to my Sec Plus when I got my first job, and that's all I held. I had my bachelor's in criminal justice. I was working on a master's in cybersecurity, and I had my Sec Plus, and that's what got my foot in the door.
Did you finish your master's yet?
I did. I got my master's 3 years ago. Gosh,
Has that helped?
We'll talk about that. So I'll say this, because that was the follow-up question I was going to actually ask you. So education, certifications, experience, what do you place the three when it comes on to merit? I'll give you my merit. I think it goes experience, certifications, education. Now, some people say, well, Andy, why? Because a lot of folks require 4 degrees. And I say, yeah, you're absolutely right. However, if you look in fine print of job applications, sometimes it will say college degree or experience, certifications, years of experience. So I have a great colleague of mine that helped me get into the industry, that he had his GED, self-taught Golang Rust programmer dude. And
Jeez. Yeah.
he, bless his heart, because I do not have the patience for Golang or Rust. And he got on with a government organization making six figures. He now has like his high
Jeez.
school diploma and like I think a Sec Plus and like a
Yeah.
TSSCI clearance, but he's doing great. And there's no college background behind him.
Right.
So when it comes to the experience, yeah, I think going through and building the home labs, going through Try Hack Me,
Right.
Hack the Box, doing Capture the Flags, building that out and understanding those fundamentals of how things work are huge. I also
Yeah.
point people toward the untraditional certifications. So like, hey, go get into Splunk or Elastic. They have free
True.
training and pipelines you can get into to where you can say
Right.
you have some experience. I then say certifications because I do think there's a good takeaway from certifications. I think you can
Uh-huh.
power through them and like understand the knowledge, but if you're going
Right.
through like Ash Ketchum trying to collect them all, dude, there's no benefit of it. You're just brain dumping it all, and
Right.
you're not taking away the actual insight knowledge of
Is
it.
that is it WGU, Western Governors University,
W-
that kind of has that?
Yeah, which I do like WGU because I think
Uh-huh.
it's more geared, I think, also toward folks that are already in the industry with certifications that are
Right.
missing
Right.
degrees because it like
Oh, that's
bypasses or
true. That's true.
it can
Yeah.
shorten their class requirements from like 11 classes to 6 to get a bachelor's. But it's because they've been working the position, they hold the
Uh-huh.
certifications already. So
That's
why
not bad. Yeah.
so why go back through a security 101 class when you have your CASP or your CISSP? It's
Yeah.
like
You shouldn't have
like
to.
I understand the basics. And then I
Uh-huh.
say college. Now I do not want to dog on college. I think education is important, but I leveraged the military for my education, so I didn't have any college
Right.
debt. A lot of folks coming out of college, like you're going to have college debt unless you have tuition reimbursement that you're doing through grants or you're on like a scholarship. College is just expensive. And
It is.
as I mentioned, there's some HR check boxes that, yes, there are some places that you cannot interview or hire onto without those degrees.
Yeah.
But that's my long-winded top 3 for me. But what about you, Chris? What are your thoughts on
So
education certifications experience?
so I would put mine in the same order,
Okay.
and the reason why is at one of my interviews, I was told that I beat someone out who had a master's,
Oh,
but
wow.
they didn't have any work experience, right? And some soft skills. So I do put experience first, um, because I'm someone who doesn't have a bachelor's degree, and that definitely puts education for me at the bottom. Because for cybersecurity, you don't technically need those things.
Mm-hmm.
They're great to have, but when you talk about education, you also need to look at where you're getting it from,
Yes.
right? A 4-year degree, you're taking a lot of extra classes that you don't really need, that you don't need, that you shouldn't have to pay for, and what kind of program do they have? You know, what are they actually making you do that you can't do outside of that school? And then if you need that structure, fine. But if you're a go-getter, then you can do all the extra stuff outside of that to prove that
Yep.
you can actually do the job, right?
Yep.
Which goes back to number 1, which is experience.
I think you said it perfectly. It's like I feel like school in like workshops or cohorts or boot camps,
Uh-huh.
there's pros and cons to each of it. I'm not a fan of boot camps or cohorts. I think there's some benefit out of it, but
I
I
don't
think
know what
there's
a cohort is, but I don't like the boot camps because it's too focused on money.
exactly that, and it's so expensive. And it's just like
Right.
I think what it is though is it comes down to like you mentioned like that structure portion of it, where same thing for education. There's a dopamine risk reward. If you pass the class, you
Right.
get an A. If you pass the semester, you get your degree, you get your diploma.
Yeah.
So, and if you miss a class, if you miss a section, if you miss a test and you fail, now you have to retake the class. There's that cause and effect. When it comes to your folks that are not good self-learners or self-motivators, you can just sit and like, well, I'm going to do some training today and try Hack Me. And then they jump on Marvel Rivals or Destiny or Halo or World of Warcraft. And it's like 5 hours turns
True.
into 15.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Right.
oh man, I was supposed to study today for like 2 hours on Try Hack Me, but it's already 11 o'clock at night. I'll do it
Yep.
tomorrow. And then it gets pushed over. So yeah, I think, and that's doing mentoring. I do a lot of like, hey, like walk me through your Monday to Friday. What's your 9 to 5? Give me your breakdown
Right.
of what your day looks like. Because half the time it's just setting that like, okay, cool. On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays when you're most
Yeah.
free.
Set that schedule.
Exactly. And I think
Uh-huh.
it's crazy sometimes of, yeah, the education piece. And same thing, I've sat through interviews where it's like we've picked people that they have SANSCLAT certifications, and we've gone with folks that just have like the Sec Plus and like a bachelor's. And
Yeah.
I think like you mentioned it too, it's just like the professional skills, and just like also just like all because you hold the certifications, do you understand the fundamentals of what they taught, and are you practicing it?
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, for certs, like obviously Security Plus is the gateway.
mhm,
Um,
yep.
Beyond that, I mean, I just feel like
It's choose your adventure.
yeah, it is, right? For me personally, test anxiety is really bad.
Oh my God.
I failed the CYSA plus. I don't think I could ever try to take it again. Even though it's just Security Plus on steroids, it's just that mental block of trying to go and take that test, knowing that I have to pay upfront a whole bunch of money and it's a pass or fail.
Hmm.
It's just it's too much for me to safely try to do, knowing that I don't even need it. Right? It's just like, oh, my Security Plus is expiring. Let's go for another certification. I don't even need it. Why get something that I don't actually need?
It,
Right? It's not cost worthy for time and mental health to try to do that.
yeah, test anxiety, I think for a lot of people is a real thing. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's one thing where I'll give Try Hack Me and like TCM Security really good kudos for, and some other training platforms that are like Hack the Box also has like their Pwn Lab challenges as well
Right.
that you get the certifications
Yeah.
for actually going in, and like it's like I'll call it a proctored exam, but it's like you're actually
Uh-huh.
doing a lab, or if you're going through logs or inside Splunk. Like try Hack Me's Blue Team Level 1. If you ever decide to challenge it or get into it, Chris, which I'd 100% recommend,
Yeah.
it's like it's an 80 question multiple choice, open source, Google. It's
There you go.
you're not locked in on a browser, where
Yeah.
very straightforward questions, which is a part of a one of two other portions of the test. It's a 3-part test. You then have
Uh-huh.
2 live labs where you have 24 hours to do this entirety of the
Oh, that's
exam,
not
but I
bad.
think
Yeah.
it's weird how they break it out though. So you have 24 hours, but you have certain hour caps, I think, for the
Uh-huh.
challenges, if I recall. So technically for the labs, you have 4 hours for each lab, but you can take
But
a
still though,
break.
that's
It's
pretty
still
good.
plenty of time.
Yeah.
I think I was able to get the labs done within like an hour and some change on both. But
I
like
mean,
you
that
get
sounds pretty natural, like the way to do it.
exactly. And it was nice though, because I actually got to go in and like go through Splunk and go
Uh-huh.
through logs, and like, okay, now I got to write my little synopsis on this event of your 5 Ws, who, what, when, why, where, for a
Yeah.
case report, which was so much more being in cybersecurity like for like 5 years when I actually took it. I'm like, oh, this is way
Yeah.
better use case rather than
Oh
just a
yeah.
multiple choice closed book. You can't ask for help, because
Right.
you and I both know in the industry, when you don't know something, you're going to go to Google. You're going to ask a
You're
coworker.
right.
You're going to
You're
find
gonna
the answer.
use right. You're gonna use what now AI. So depending on what your company allows, you're gonna go
Yes.
there. That's my other issue with tests, especially certification tests, is it's not real world, right? There's in my job, there's not gonna be like some magic dome over me that's gonna be like, okay, you got to answer this question, and if you don't answer it, you're done. Like
You've been
it's
locked out of this router for
yeah, like
5 minutes. Like, oh no.
maybe if I forget my password a whole bunch of times, but like no. And so like it's just unrealistic. I've been that way with tests, like my whole life. Like you grow up in school and they're like, oh, you're never gonna have a calculator with you all the time. Well, that's a lie.
Look at me
So
now.
yeah, like
So, Chris, I have a
yeah,
question.
just stuff like that. So
I have a follow up question for you. Well, 2 follow up questions, but like, so like, obviously
sure.
you've been in the industry now for 2.5 years. When you
Uh-huh.
were interviewing and kind of going in, how do you recall? And I don't know if you remember, do you remember how many applications, interviews you were trying to knock out before you got in to your first role?
Okay.
Not to throw any flashbacks on you, like, ah,
I'm lucky. Okay. So when I was applying to my first one out of Bridgerland, um, I mean that one's like IT system. Like we did a lot, right? I wouldn't classify it as specifically cybersecurity versus where I'm at right now.
okay.
I would. I applied there, and I applied to like a couple local places. So not that many. right?
Okay.
And then I got that one with Metropolitan Theaters, and then uh, going from Metropolitan Theaters to Accuray, that was just like a switch.
Oh,
So
wow.
I
Awesome.
only applied to them. I wasn't necessarily looking at the
Nice.
time. It was someone had posted it in the SyncCon Discord. So shout out to SyncCon,
Nice.
which is actually in a few weeks. And I saw the post there, and I messaged the person who posted it, and then asking some questions there, and I didn't know him. I never met him, but it worked out. Obviously, worked worked out really well, and we
Nice,
have a
man.
ton in common. And I will say, one of my favorite questions from his interview um, was kind of just more of a thought question of like, okay, here's you have an ATM machine. Tell me all the ways that you could hack it, right? And then also maybe how to defend it. So like those questions were fun. When I interviewed for local areas, I had set a goal coming out of school to make a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
And in my area, they don't really pay that. And I remember doing one interview where they kind of like had it a little bit lower. Sometimes I just say things that come out of my mouth, right? My wife makes fun of me all the time for it because yeah. Anyways, I said something that I probably shouldn't have. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. I poked fun at getting paid, for the value that I'm in, and yeah, they didn't call me back. I was
Well,
like, okay, clearly they're not paying enough anyway. But
I mean, at the end
to
of the day,
to each their own.
yeah, at the end of the day, you
So
got to take care of the family and like make sure that
yeah,
because I have a good colleague of mine right now, but we won't name the company he's at, but he's
mhm,
also getting underpaid for the amount of work he's doing. And
yeah,
he did his own research. He's like, "Oh, dude, I'm like 25K underpaid working this role I'm working."
hmm,
On top of he's now wearing additional hats, and
right,
he's on a PTO trip right now for like a week to go on a fishing trip out east. And he's like, "Oh, dude, when I get
hmm.
home, rapid applications," because he went and
But now's the time,
it
you
is,
know.
and it's funny though because he asked like, "Hey, look, like I'd like to talk about salary because like I kind of feel like
Hmm.
I'm pretty like now knowing more about the market value. This was his first cyber position. He wanted the experience,
Yeah,
getting his foot in the door. But now the amount of work he's doing with being on call 24/7, that wasn't advertised when he took the role. Has to take his laptop
oh
home.
yeah, that's annoying.
So it's just like he has some like responsibilities where he's like, well, this wasn't really discussed when I got hired, and it's like if I would have known that
Hmm.
was the case, I would have asked for more because obviously there's
Right.
more give and take here what the company's asking
Hmm.
for. But I think like 100% Chris, like when interviewing, like don't be afraid to ask for what you want, or even ask like once they give you
Yes.
that offer. I have some friends like, yo, dude, I always just take the offer I get. I'm like, dude, I always counter offer, and I'm not
Yeah.
asking like for like 30K more. I mean, like, but like, just
Right.
do your homework and do your research and like give a legitimately
Yep.
valid offer pushback of like, hey, well, I very much appreciate this offer and so excited to be selected for this role. However, doing some
Hmm.
research across the current like steam of where cybersecurity is and like the current paid work role for this and the market and the area we're living in. I would like to rebuttal and blah blah blah. And you can
Right.
chat. You can, like you said, you can use AI and Chat GPT this to come up with a good rebuttal letter to ask
Right.
for whatever you really want to make. But yeah, that's a nail on the head. So I'll ask this too, Chris. So when it comes into continuous training and like kind of figuring out like to stay on top of things that are always developing here within cyber, do you have a favorite training platform or way that you kind of try to stay up to date on skills, whether that's internal that
Hmm.
maybe just like, you know what, I could do so crazy cool stuff at work, or maybe if work has any cool training platforms you guys get to use or leverage, or even just on your own?
Yeah. That's actually been one of my challenges is really trying to keep up with everything, and trying to focus on what's the most important um, way to do it, right? Um, are you watching videos from LinkedIn Learning? Um, it's okay, right? It's fine. Something that I've been focused on for myself is actually the trying to get more into Microsoft's training.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yeah.
because that way I can actually focus on the tools that I'm using and be able to get a little bit more deeper into it. And it's really funny because I feel like I know certain things, and then I go and like just like skimming through, some of this training to get to the lab, and then I realized, oh man, they're doing more things in this lab than I realize that I'm doing, but I do it so like intrinsically
Mm-hmm.
that now they're asking me to go do certain things. I'm like, oh, I don't know where that is. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't know it as well as I should, but I know how to do it. I don't do it the way they were doing it,
Yep.
type of thing. But it was still like, it was a really good learning experience. And sometimes I think that's important is like, you get stuck in this mindset of how you learned how to do it. And then someone's like, oh, this is actually probably a better way. And so you
Well,
kind of have to like break that mold that you've made.
it's like you mentioned too. It's like there's like I call it like letter of the law, spirit of the law. Back to my law enforcement days, where it's like same thing
Yeah.
with cyber. There's like the book answer way of how things are done, like via through like lectures and labs and then like trainings. But then you get
Right.
to your actual environment at whatever organization you're at, and like, well, this is like NIST standard, but this is
Yeah.
how we do it. That still meets requirements. That still does this, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So it's like I don't want to call it like the shortcut way sometimes of like what you learn on the job, but it's just like that same concept of like, yeah, the things you're going to learn, they're great concepts. It's important to know the fundamentals of what's happening within a specific tool or a specific like tool
Right.
suite. But yeah, like it's not always going to be like letter of the law. Like, okay, first we have to open up Windows and go to systems and do scan for patch Tuesday.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then, we have to push all these patches today. It's like, no, there's other ways to do it. So it's
Yeah.
just like, no, that's awesome, man. Uh, Another question I have for you, Chris, that might be kind of relevant for folks trying to break into the industry right now. So for you, think like on a top resume skill that you'd want to see, what would you think would be the most important thing folks should be trying to highlight on their resumes?
Yeah. So I think the most important, it, you actually mentioned this in the video that you posted this week, is your soft skills communications.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I'm where I'm at right now, and where it's going to take me in the future is my ability to talk to people. I've had years of customer service throughout my entire work career. And I'm just natural and good with people. Which is funny because I'm not an extrovert type of person, but I love like just talking to someone and learning about them. Like it's just this weird like tism, you could call it, right? Like when you're interacting with somebody. And same thing for like conferences. Like I love that energy and that atmosphere, and I just kind of feed off of it. And then I'll go back to like either my house or my home, and it's like, oh,
Just
just
drained. Yeah.
just drained. But it's like, I don't know, it's just who I am, right? One of my big focuses right now is security awareness, and about just trying to change culture, and it just comes down to energy and excitement, trying to get
Yeah.
people who don't want to do something to do something.
Yeah. That
And so
one user that hates MFA. Like, I'm not getting MFA. I'm like,
yeah,
please,
yeah,
we need this for
yeah,
compliance.
yeah. So for me, I mean, those soft skills, you can have all the certs, you can have all the degrees, you can have all the whatever, but if you don't know how to talk to people on your team, talk to executive
Mm-hmm.
leaders, anybody, if you can't do that, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. Cause like and also if you can't ask for help. So it's like,
That too.
I
Yep.
learned very early in my career, like when you don't know something, and I think I have the that's why when you were kind of giving your experience of like how you kind of work things out, I'm very
Uh-huh.
much the same way. I will, when given a task, and like I love being on my team, and like something comes down the pipeline for like an ad hoc job, or hey, we need someone to
Yeah.
help do this task. Boom, my hand shoots up. Hey, boss, I got it.
Right.
And then they throw it to me, and I'm like, oh shit, I have never done this before. And rather than just like immediately asking for help or going to my boss, like, hey, I'm not really sure how to do this, I will go and like make sure I use every means possible to find the answer myself first, to do the
Right.
research, to do my homework, go through internal docs, talk to senior team members before I go up to my tier 2 or tier 3s. And then
Uh-huh.
if I really get stuck on something or I cannot find something, that's when I make sure, like, in a relatively timely manner, not like I get a task on a Monday, it's due on a Friday, and then on Thursday I'm saying, "Hey boss, I actually need help on this. I'm stuck." It's knowing when and how to ask for that help at the right time.
Yeah,
Because,
for sure.
and it's nice to challenge yourself on those kind of things. And I always tell people that, look, when you get onto a team and you get onto your first role, be the person that your boss and your team can count on to take on extra tasks, to be that
Yep.
person that's like, "Hey, I need something done. Oh, let's ask Chris.
Volunteer.
We know
Yeah.
Chris can get it done because we've given him those tasks before and he always comes through."
Yeah.
And
Volunteer yourself to do it. Like, I understand sitting back and letting other people lead that you think should, but don't be afraid to lead from the back and, push things forward with yourself.
or shadow. Like, another thing you can
Or
always
shadow.
ask is
Shadow is great too.
asking the shadow, like a team member or like a lead that's doing
Uh-huh.
something that you want to be able to do. The worst they're going to tell you is no, which they
Yeah.
90% of the time won't, or at least that's the experience I've gotten. Most of the time oh
Uh-huh.
yeah, we'd love to show you what we're doing. Here, jump on a call and I'll share my screen. So
Right.
yeah, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
Speaking of shadowing, sorry,
no, go,
before
go, go.
before
You're
you
good.
cut me off, when I was at USAA, no matter what position you start in, after your year is over, they let you try to move on, right, to something else. And that's what they do, is they allow you to shadow and see if that's a department that you want to go into. Plus they focus on using that education benefit that they have. And so if the company that you work for has something like that, or if you're looking to expand from your current role where you're at, use it. Use
Mm-hmm.
what's out there.
Yeah, no, awesome, Chris. Well, I have two questions left for you before we kind of wrap up tonight.
Okay.
And first question I have for you: so when you're not doing cybersecurity, what do you have to do for fun? What are you doing to kind of unwind? Because obviously burnout
Yeah,
is
yeah.
very real here in the
It
industry.
sure is, yes.
Yeah. So what are you doing to kind of unplug and kind of step back from the screen, or plugging
So
back into the screen to play games? Because I know I'm a gamer and that's what I like to do.
yes, so I grew up playing games, and I sold my Xbox a few years ago. I sort of regret it sometimes, but sometimes I don't. Because I did waste, I won't say waste, I did use that a lot. Um, but for me, I was wasting time on it, especially in the evenings when I could do with something else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do have like some older games like on Steam. So like I love Command and Conquer, RTS games, kind of just brain games, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, cooking, traveling, just really spending time with my wife. Um, I will say for me, I don't do a lot of hack the box. I don't do a lot of hacking. When I first got into cyber, that was kind of like, oh yeah, that's what you do, but it's not really what I do. Um, and so, I'm for me personally, I'm trying to traverse a different route within cybersecurity. Uh, but for me to unwind, sometimes I just have crazy ideas, and so I will deep dive into things like crazy. I got ADHD, and if you need a vacation plan, I will tell you every single thing you need to know about your destination, how to get there, what to do, and when you come home. And so if something pops into my head, I will just go crazy onto it. And it may sound like a lot of work, but for me, it's not. That's just how my brain likes to relax a little bit.
No, that's awesome, dude. And I mean, like, I think, like you said, like everyone has to find their own path when it comes into where they
Uh-huh.
want to go in their career. And yeah, so like going in, like, as soon as you're unplugging from your day, jumping into try hack me and hack the box may not always be the avenue or the route you want to go. Cause
Right.
I'm the same way. It's nice to take a break. It's not to, I'm not always trying to cyber is the thing I always tell
Right.
people to do. Like, you have to have some like like differential hobbies, or you're just going
Uh-huh.
to get yourself burnt out. Cause what you'd be doing all day,
You
you're
will.
doing also in the
Mhm.
evenings. So yeah,
Absolutely.
understanding the time gaps of like, now I am in try hack me and hack the box and things like that, doing
Uh-huh.
certain skill sets I want to learn, But like
Right.
exactly like we talked about, I think earlier before the call too, it's like spacing it out where it's like maybe like 1 to 2, maybe 3 hours a week spaced out, like 1 hour a day kind of thing like
Yeah.
that.
Don't do it every day, especially if you're blue teaming or red teaming. Like you're going to get crazy.
Well, Chris, I have one more question for you, but before we get to that,
Uh,
huge thank you for coming onto the channel. And as a thank you,
Absolutely.
you're going to get some awesome Ginger Hacker swag. I will send you the Shopify link to pick your item as a thank you for coming on the channel.
Cool. Thank you.
And my last question before we sign off for the night is what advice would you give someone, final advice you'd give someone trying to break into cyber?
If you're in college and you're trying to break in, go to your local groups. Find your local DEF CON group. Find, in Salt Lake, they have 801 labs. Use Discord. Find these things and just get to know people. Make those connections at conferences and leverage networking as if it's part of your resume and it's a skill. Because honestly, you can send out resumes all day long through LinkedIn and be one of those 100 plus people that applied to all these crazy cool jobs that are out there and never hear back from them. So talk to people.
Awesome, Chris. Well, everyone, as always, thank you for coming onto the channel for another amazing episode. And as always, we'll catch you on the next episode of Breaking into Cyber.